Hi there. This is Group 7, Ashley, Alexia, Hannah, Adrian, and Kristen, and we're going to talk to you today about copyright rules. In today's world, we all love watching, listening to, and using music created by our favorite artists. However, are we allowed to do so? According to copyright law, are we allowed to watch the entire video or quote songs? What rights do we have? And how are the authors able to protect their work? Well, while we're thinking about that, let's watch this Taylor Swift video because we just love Taylor Swift. But stop. We don't know if we have the rights to the song. While we may want to use certain videos or songs, or even wise words said by some very wise people we look up to, we must make sure to follow copyright laws. So today we're going to explore copyright and how to make sure to follow these guidelines established within these laws. So what exactly are copyright laws? Well, these are the legal rights to someone's work, which could be for art, music, writing, etc. These are the rights that protect its creators for whatever work that they have created. They may help make sure that the creators are compensated for their work. Compensated means paid. It is also important to note that any information you find on the internet is considered copyrighted unless stated otherwise. So how are copyright laws broken? Copyright laws can be broken whenever someone uses someone else's work without permission. If you're working on a project for school like research, it's important to cite where you got your information and to only use a piece of that person's work. We'll talk more about this in a little bit when we talk about fair use. Now, why should I avoid breaking laws? Well, you should avoid breaking laws because you're taking away from the hard work and earnings of someone else, which is not right. That's considered stealing and it's against the law. You can get fined anywhere from $750 to $30,000 per infringement. If someone else's work is used for private or commercial gain, which means you're using it for business, you can even go to prison. So it's best to learn now, just don't do it. But how can you avoid it? So how do you avoid breaking copyright laws? We have a couple things that help us out here, and they all fall under fair use laws. So with fair use, they look at what is the purpose and character. So why are you using the media? Is it for school or work? Well, education falls under fair use. So if it's for school, then you're more than likely able to use it. Is this a modification of any previous work? If so, then it's not considered fair use. What is the nature of the copyrighted work? Is it published, out of print, factual? If so, it's more likely to fall under fair use. Is it unpublished? Is it still being printed? Is it artistic? If so, that's harder to argue that it falls under fair use. And then they look at the amount. The more amount that you use, the less likely it is to fall under fair use. And if it's more than 50%, then it's not considered your work. They also look at copyrighted work and money, of course. So one of the big questions they ask is, does it prevent the original creator from getting paid? If yes, then it doesn't fall under fair use. And will others try to use this after you, which causes a flooding of the market? Then it does not fall under fair use. So I want to avoid breaking copyright laws. So what exactly should I do? Well, the first thing you should do is you should ask permission to use copyrighted materials. You may use up to 3 minutes of a movie, and you may use 10% of a song or 30 seconds max, whichever one is less. Pictures and graphics are okay for students to use in multimedia projects. So all of this all falls under fair use. And remember, if it's for school, we're able to use the media as long as it falls under this. So with the fair use guidelines, they do allow for the use of copyrighted materials without permission in certain situations. So the material in question should be used for one of the 4 reasons spelled out in the middle circle. 1, for education. 2, news reporting. 3, for criticizing or commenting. And 4, for comedy or parody. In these specific situations, if the copyrighted material used meets at least one of the criteria in the outer circles, then it is probably protected under fair use guidelines. Are you using only a small amount of the copyrighted material or adapting the material to use in a different way? Will the material being used not bring a profit? And finally, are you adding to or changing the copyrighted material? These are general fair use guidelines. There's no specific formula to calculate fair use. Courts rule on acceptable fair use on a case-to-case basis by taking all of these factors into consideration. You still need to cite and give credit to your sources if you decide to use copyright material under fair use guidelines. So what if I find information that I want to use word for word? How do I do that legally? Well, whenever you want to use information word for word, you must use direct citations to give credit to the author. These examples today demonstrate how to format using APA style. Make sure to check with your teacher when formatting citations because it varies according to the style required by the teacher. When there are two ways to cite citations, you must use the author's name in the text or in the citation. Whichever one you decide to use, for APA style, you must include the author's last name, publication year, along with the page number. The way you format it varies according to how it is embedded in your work. So with the blue, we have with the author's name in the text, which says, according to Doe, 1990, this is the quote, page 10, period. We also have Doe, 1990, explains, this is the quote, page 10, to the reader. Now, if you include the author's name only in the citation, that's the green. It says, as often stated, this is the quote, Doe, 1990, page 10. And then the other example, many people believe that this is the quote, Doe, 1990, page 10. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg. But what if I find information and I want to use it, but I'm not directly quoting it? How do I do that? Well, if you want to use ideas from another person's work, but you don't want to use it word for word, a good option is to either create a summary or paraphrase their ideas. Remember, even when paraphrasing or summarizing, you still must give credit to the original author. If you did not come up with the idea, then you still need to give credit to the person who did. In APA style, when paraphrasing and summarizing, you must include the author's last name, the publication year, and the page number if possible. While it is encouraged to use the page numbers while paraphrasing or summarizing, it is not required. So what if I find pictures or videos online that I want to use in my own presentation? Well, it is certainly possible to use pictures or videos that you find online in your own presentations. Here are ways you can do so and to make sure you're following the law. First of all, it is possible to ask for permission to use copyrighted material. Another idea is to find pictures, videos, and materials that are part of public domain. So what is public domain? Stanford University Library says it refers to creative materials that are not protected by copyright laws. The public owns these works, not an individual or an artist. Anyone can use public domain work without obtaining permission, but no one can ever own it. In some cases, the creator may have chosen not to copyright the materials, but instead to dedicate them to the public domain. It could also be that the copyright has expired. For an individual, a copyright lasts for 70 years after death. If the copyright work was hired, the copyright expires 100 years after creation or 75 years after the first publication or distribution. And that's from Smaldino. Creative Commons is a nonprofit organization that allows for creators to share their work on their terms and provides free and easy to use copyright licenses for the public. You can either search for the material that you are able to use directly on their site. Finally, think about the fair use guidelines we have already covered. Did the original creator of the video or video intend for the material to be viewed publicly? Does the material fall under fair use? So quick review of the key ideas. Copyright means it is a legal right created to grant the creator of an original work exclusive rights for use and distribution. Fair use means copying of copyrighted material done for limited and transformative purposes, such as to comment upon, criticize, or parody a copyrighted work. Citation means a quotation from a reference to a book, paper, or author, especially in a scholarly work. The ways to avoid copyright issues: create your own work, ask permission, use Creative Commons, use public domains, and cite the source. Always give credit where credit is due. So let's take a quick little quiz. Let's see how you picked up all the information about copyright laws and rules. So the first question, do you own the rights to the work you create? Not necessarily, actually. Sometimes a publisher or other organizations or individuals might own the rights to pieces of work created by someone else. For example, Michael Jackson bought some of the rights to some of the Beatles songs. So the Beatles did not own those rights. They'd had to pay Michael Jackson every time they played their own music. Can you add a link to another website on a site that you've created? You can, but you must make sure that you spell the name of the website correctly and make sure that the link is going to the correct website. For example, you can't send your reader to your cousin's SoundCloud website and say it's Beyonce's. What must a student do if they want to use copyrighted material? If a student wants to copyright material, they need to explain where they got the information from by citing that information. Students can use images from the internet legally when they do what? Students must cite the images. Again, there are also those great public domain websites for free photos that fall under Creative Commons and public domain. So what types of work are protected under copyright law? All works fall under copyright law. Some works fall under Creative Commons in the public domain, and these photos have rules attached to the use of the photo. Like sometimes you can't profit off of the image, or you can profit, but you have to give proper credit to the image. Depends on what the image wants. So true or false? Any copyrighted work can be used if it's for educational purposes. Now this is true with some limitations. Remember, you can't watch a whole movie, and there's a maximum of 3 minutes for the movie. And if you are using a song, you can only use 10% or 30 seconds of a song. True or false? Music can be downloaded in the classroom from any website since it's only being used in school. This is false. Because some online sources, they don't obtain music legally for their users to download. And this can cause you, the downloader, to get a fine because you are in possession of stolen music. Okay, so we want to thank you for paying attention to us for this presentation, and we hope that you've learned a lot. Thank you from all of us.